I know we come from different backgrounds here. Some of us, like my group, Sisters in Islam, have worked for equality and justice through a rereading of the textual sources of the religion and to unveil an egalitarian interpretation of the sacred text and to ground this understanding of Islam with our constitutional guarantees of equality and non-discrimination, human rights principles and documents that our governments have ratified, and our lived realities. Others have worked strictly within the human rights framework because of the belief that to work with religion, one reason to work with religion where patriarchal interpretations prevail and ijtihad, reinterpretation, is forbidden, is a waste of time. Or that religion, some believe that religion is inherently unjust and unchangeable. As I was often told in the early days of Sisters in Islam, and we've been in this business for some 20 years, attending meetings of women's groups in the region, why do you bother? For every one interpretation you can offer, the mullahs can offer 100 more interpretations. And this is counterproductive because you cannot beat them at their own game. This is their territory in which they are recognized as having the authority to speak on Islam. Why do you enter their territory? But Islam has not gone away from our lives, and we talk to this very day. If at all, it has become even more powerful in shaping and influencing the lives of women and the society that we live in today. By ignoring religion, by pretending that it has no role to play in public life, we left the field open to the most conservative and extremist forces within Islam to define, dominate, and set the parameters of what Islam is and what it is not. These people defined for us what Islam means, how to be a Muslim, how to be a good Muslim woman, wife, and daughter, and then prescribe for us laws and rules and policies that keep us women shackled as second-class Muslims and second-class citizens. And then when we protest, they say we have no authority to speak on Islam. But in the context of Malaysia, in a country where Islam is used as a source of law and public policy, we claim that we assert that all citizens have the right to speak on Islam, whether they are Muslims or non-Muslims, whether they're experts or non-experts on Islam. Public law, public policy must by necessity be open to public debate and pass the test of public reason. If the Islamist activists, the fundamentalists, the mullahs do not want us to talk about Islam, then we tell them to please then remove Islam from the public space. And we will all, of course, then shut up because it has no impact on our lives. It's between us and God. Sisters in Islam has been in this struggle for over 2 decades. It is an uphill battle, but it is, I feel, a necessary task to undertake. The work that we do in working on the rights of Muslim women to equality and justice and pushing for a rights-based understanding of Islam that is grounded in constitutional guarantees of equality and non-discrimination. Many constitutions in Muslim countries actually do have a section on fundamental liberties and do provide provision for equality and non-discrimination. Grounded in our constitutional guarantees, in international human rights principles, and in the lived realities of women and men today, the work has had an international impact. And last year, we initiated a global movement called Musawa. It means equality in Arabic, an initiative to build a global movement for equality and justice in the Muslim family. In fact, quite a number of the people here were at that launch in February last year. We brought together some 250 activists and Islamic scholars to Kuala Lumpur to be part of what we hope to be a very visible national, regional, and international presence of a movement led by Muslim women demanding equality and justice in Islam and demanding that Islam should not be used to discriminate against women in law and public policy and in practice. What Musawa hopes to bring to the larger women's and human rights movement is this: an assertion that Islam can be a source of empowerment, not a source of oppression and discrimination, an effort to open new horizons for rethinking the relationship between human rights, equality and justice, and Islam, an offer to open a new constructive dialogue where religion is no longer an obstacle to equality for women, but can be a source for liberation, a collective strength of conviction and courage to stop governments and patriarchal authorities and ideological non-state actors from the convenience of using religion and the word of God to silence our demands for equality, and a space where activists, scholars, decision makers working within the human rights or the Islamic framework or both can interact and mutually strengthen our common pursuit of equality and justice. Our activities are currently focused on 3 areas of work: knowledge building, international advocacy, and outreach to build a movement in different parts of the Muslim world, and also in minority Muslim contexts in the West, where Muslim women are similarly affected by the rise of religious fundamentalism and the attempts to impose Islamic law, Sharia tribunals to govern the personal status of Muslim women in the West. We have produced 3 publications, and please go to the website if you're interested, which laid the foundation for Musawa as a knowledge building movement. A book called Wanted, Equality and Justice in the Muslim Family. It's a book of analytical papers that seek to understand the genesis of Muslim family law, how it was constructed within the classical faith tradition, and how the wealth of resources within Islamic jurisprudence, Quranic verses on justice, compassion, and equality can actually support reform towards a more egalitarian family. We're also building a resource-rich website to promote the principles of Musawa and the substantive arguments for family law reform using the holistic 4-prong approach that I keep mentioning. How do we justify equality and non-discrimination at the Islamic, constitutional, human rights, and lived realities levels? And for this approach, we really owe a debt to Mahnaz and to the Women's Learning Partnership for translating into English the work of the Maghrib 95 group and their guide to equality. And also, of course, to our friends in ADFM Morocco, which is also a WLP partner, who have shared with us their strategies and experience at many meetings. We don't claim to have all the answers or that our strategy is the best strategy, but we feel that it is important that we tell those who use religion to sustain patriarchy and justify discriminatory laws and practices against women that enough is enough. You don't have the monopoly over the discourse on religion. For me, the hope for change lies in the growing voices of dissent against intolerant, oppressive, and discriminatory teachings of the religion, the opening up of the public space, and the breakdown in the monopoly that the traditional religious authorities have over the discourse on Islam. Therefore, the democratization project in Muslim countries today must go hand in hand with the debate on the public role of Islam. The Islamist opposition cannot demand for more democracy, justice, and respect for human rights on the one hand, in order to get rid of an authoritarian secular government, but at the same time demand that all these principles stop at the door of Islam. That somehow Islamic law and policies should not be put to the same test that they demand of the despotic ruler. Public law, as I said, must be open to public debate. And even if that law is made in the name of religion, it is no longer tenable to hide behind the sanctity of the divine to silence dissent and to erase differences. The challenge then in many Muslim countries is to expand this public space, to open up the debate, to turn the dissenting voices into a clamor for justice and equality, for freedom and dignity at the national, regional, and international levels. And women's groups in Muslim countries have been organizing and building bridges across regions to multiply their voices, to take the lead in reforming the teachings and understanding of Islam, to deal with the challenges of the modern world and the realities of our lives today. How we live our faith in this world remains a work in progress. And for me, actually, it's an exciting work in progress. The challenge is not just for Muslims, but also for Christians, Jews, Hindus, Buddhists, that there is a resurgence of faith in public life is obvious. There is a yearning for transcendence, for spirituality, for faith in an age of rapid change, and all the uncertainties and fears of the unknown that change brings. As a Muslim, I do not believe that a simplistic call to return to an idealized golden age of Islam that has little bearing to the realities of today's world can be the answer. Neither is the wishful thinking to will religion away from the lives of Muslims. The critical and systematic engagement with the religious tradition begun by feminist scholars and activists has actually opened up spaces within Muslim societies for an alternative discourse to emerge, to challenge and to delegitimize the discourse of patriarchy as inherently Islamic. This serious, critical, and thoughtful engagement with the religion in a political agenda that seeks gender justice is a work in progress. As a Muslim feminist in the 21st century, I'm excited by this emerging paradigm shift that in Muslim theological and jurisprudential scholarship, that I can see this in my lifetime, that I will see the possibility of reconciling the teachings of Islam with human rights, with women's rights, and that Muslims caught in the debilitating identity politics of our times do not have to choose between being a Muslim or a feminist. That indeed you can be a Muslim, a feminist, and actually have fun as well and be fully engaged in this modern world. Thank you.